Hello there, Miss Mary Hayes. How are you?
Hello, Sir Mark. How are you? I'm very well.
Good too. Good to see your smile as usual. So, welcome, welcome, welcome to
Thank
the
you.
Leaders Who Care video series and channel where we're just talking to a whole bunch of leaders that care. And in this day and age, if not any age, we need that caring as much as ever. So, welcome.
It's been a remarkable week. Yes, remarkable time.
It's been, it feels like a year, and it's only not even 6 months into the year. But, we're looking at, there's a lot of opportunity at hand that can happen here. And that's part of the reason we're doing this is the leaders who care not only talk about it, but they act on it and make stuff happen. So I think a great way to start would be just, if you can, tell everybody who you are and a little bit about you. We only have like 9 hours. Don't go, I'm just kidding. Um, but just a few,
Yeah,
that'd be great.
my name is Mary Hayes, and I have a company called Engage Learning Systems that built custom corporate content for frontline. We really specialized in that frontline worker for the Walmarts, McDonald's, Western Unions, Disney's, building the training for the frontline. Frontline is your bottom line, and building the systems that would ensure that the training could teach, practice, and assess and report back the return on investment in learning. And from that evolved a product that's now its own company called Workbay. And Workbay gives communities that same power to teach, practice, and assess across their community. Learning is a utility, just like light and water, but it integrates those to job posting, applicant tracking, and regional career pathways so that communities can see who's learning what, who needs what.
Yeah, so many things I love about what you're doing, including you, which was the first love, and but we talk about so often how leaders who care understand the value of that they can do well in their business, they can do well by their talent, and then that flows down into the community, and that is what you're doing. So with that, let me ask you, I know your background, and one of the best things about you is the Canadian part, obviously. But well, I want to ask you, everybody's got their why, but why do you do what you do?
Wow. Wow. It's just the reason that it's tricky to answer is because my brain and my heart both explode when you say that. So I wanted to say that it's just plain efficient. Like, it's just efficient to do a better job at engaging all our community and all of their gifts in their best way to return those gifts to the community. It's just more efficient to do a good job. And we know that. Like, when we were doing that corporate training, seriously, we had times where somebody would give me $25,000 to do something. We deploy it and save $1 million. Because if you get 100,000 people doing the right thing, even for 15 minutes a day, it adds up pretty quick. So there's that. But then there's also the whole reason that a community is so important. And the community is about people bringing their gifts to the community and being rewarded for it, recognized and respected for it. So, where we see frontline workers now being called essential workers. And we realize through COVID how important those jobs are. Those jobs have always fascinated me.
Yeah, it's brilliant. There's a lot of talk right now, obviously, about giving people dignity, understanding the value of every person's life, and the grocery clerk, as you say, the frontline, nurse and everything. Try living without them. It's pretty hard. So, with that said, this as well as anybody, it's taken decades to get to this point where we've realized that aligning a corporate brand with social impact is a good thing to do for all sorts of reasons, including being able to attract the best people, because the best people want to work for leaders like that. Your backgrounds, education, you, as I said, you started in university in my home country. That's going to keep coming out, sorry. Supporting the Indigenous community, big time in Canada, not to mention the States. So, and you're helping corporates, you're helping job seekers, of all, all levels type of thing. I always tell people this is kind of like a push question because it's about yourself. What do you think the thing that most differentiates you as one of the leaders who cares?
I think that I practice behaviors that look like caring, because I learned over time to listen, and listening, I think, really comes through as caring. But in the work that I was doing, I had to map the competencies for different frontline jobs. If someone says, hey, teach Western Union people how to run the cash register, or McDonald's people how to improve French fry yield, well, I didn't know. I didn't know the answer, so I had to go find out. So I have actually put the uniform on and done the job in almost every economic sector, from 5 miles underground in a mine, to cleaning up the $35,000 hotel room at the Four Seasons just after some special dignitaries had left. And in doing that, I had to listen to people at the front line. And I also started recording videos. At this point, I've recorded probably about 2,000 videos of people on the job talking about who they are, what they do, what they love about what they do. In order, as you know, to make a good video, you have to keep your mouth closed so you don't wreck the take. And so I had to learn to keep my mouth closed and listen. And yet in my role, I would be taken off the uniform of like a Tire Lube Express and literally walking into a meeting with global head of talent and talking about what I just learned from the guy that was changing the tire. Yeah. And how it could impact the organization. So listening, I think it's that I learned the value of listening, and that listening is the first step on caring.
That is such a great quote. Listening is the first step on caring. And it's funny, how many years did it take for corporate leaders to understand that the head of production should be on the management committee or something like that? That's God. Who would have thought that's where the information and knowledge is, and everything. And isn't it so true? We have a program we recommend to clients called Nonflict, which talks about listening and caring. And isn't it so true that one of the things people want most in the world is not necessarily to agree with them, but just to know that you heard them?
Yes.
It's amazing. My grandparents used to say, with a little bit of a Kiev Russian accent, they used to say, as long as you have your health, that's the most important thing. And then they would say, and after that, education. Those were the key things they said. So if you look at technology as speeding Gonzales, it's going crazy. You got COVID, which we thought was the biggest thing in the world. Now you got some really amazing stuff that can happen with, equality and justice and racism. If we do it properly, we can really make some dramatic improvements. How do you see, from your perspective, which should be great, how do you see the future of work, the future of doing business, the future of treating people, like you said, equally, whether they went to the best college in the world or vocational or online or whatever, working together?
Well, there's this extraordinary democratization of access to knowledge, isn't there? Right. And so when we talk about education, I think I just said, learning objects got to teach, practice, and assess, right? And then it has to report the value of that assessment to somebody who cares. And so we've got the first part. We've got that access to all the teaching that we can handle, like teaching with a fire hose, right? Just get onto Google. And we're working right now on the fact that 1 in 5 kids in America don't have access to the internet at home. So we're working on fixing that. And I know that Congress is working on going that final mile, make sure everybody has access as a utility in their home to access to knowledge and information. 2 different things. Yeah. And then, but the other thing that's happening is there's a real movement led by IMS Global on the international student record and creating digital credentials of knowledge that will give someone deed and title to their knowledge from all different sources. We have had only the source of the, you know, the Harvards and the MITs and those cathedrals of learning, they have been able to give deed and title to knowledge that was recognized widely. There's a real movement that's 20 years old or more. Many people developing deed and title to competence and competency-based hiring rather than, you know, the other sort of forms of deed and title to knowledge, and that will give access to people based on their competence and not their zip code or the wealth of their family.
You sound like the I'm gonna love this, the Hernando DeSoto.
Hernando DeSoto, deed and title. Deed and title. Yeah, that Hernando DeSoto is the reason I founded my company. I read his book, Mystery of Capital, and it changed my life. It did. He wrote about the importance to give deed and title to knowledge to people in other countries, as you know, and when I read that book, I got to the last page and I went right back to the first page and I read it over again. I read it every couple of years since, and because all I could see was how we needed to give deed and title to knowledge and competency to people that otherwise were outside of the system. And in that third world of our economy, where, you know, you might work for 20, 30 years and still, if you got laid off and you walked out the threshold of that company, you left all your assets behind and you were just unknown, you know? And so that's what I was trying to do with Workbay, was create a community-based system to manage and track that competency. And now I'm one of a worldwide movement in that. You know, Walmart and FedEx have signed on to the IMS Global Digital Competency Initiative. Badger from Concentric Sky is just an extraordinary piece of work in this space. So there's a lot of reasons to think that the future of our economy has everything it needs to be a more equitable and democratic place.
Yeah, and isn't that great? I heard a speech today talking about, you know, the African Americans and how they were way smarter than the underserved schools that they were put into, and you can imagine how a person feels. I mean, my family was never rich by a long shot, but we were fine, basically. We weren't rich, but we were fine. And can imagine how someone feels inside when they've got these dreams, they've got these inherent knowledge that they just want to expand, and they got no way to do it. It's got to be like you're captured.
It's extraordinary, and it's extraordinarily wasteful of us, right?
Right.
So like Memphis, my hometown, has got right now 45,000 16 to 22-year-olds who are neither enrolled nor employed. Every one of them has a brain that far exceeds a supercomputer. And if I said to you, I got 45,000 supercomputers just sitting down in Memphis, like, wouldn't you hop on a plane to go pick them up? But we just kind of accept this extraordinary waste of human potential at the front lines of our economy. Like me, I've done every single job in many retail stores. I've done every one of them. But if I went right now and applied to my local Superbox retailer, they wouldn't hire me. Manager would look at me and look at a nice 22-year-old young man and say, that's the one I want to have work for me. And so that's where we have to do a better job and waste less of our human resources.
Yeah, and you know, related to that, I'd love to know how you could kind of answer a little bit how you see the current leaders and the upcoming business leaders who care, what their roles are going to be in the well-being of everybody, the financial well-being of people they hire, but also the physical and mental well-being. Because what you're talking about is, by not using those brains, those minds, those people, giving them opportunities, it totally impacts everything. It totally impacts crime, healthcare, self-esteem. And one of the biggest things I've found, and then you can give your thoughts on all this, is the number one thing that fills people's hearts and souls is to belong. Everybody wants to belong. And if you're excluding them, you're not belonging.
So part of me that I just keep talking about the bottom line here, Mark, but there's really good bottom line stuff. Exactly what you just said. The number one reason that someone in a frontline job stays is because they feel like a respected member of the community. There are a number of studies proving this from the Department of Labor and others. You feel like a respected member of the community. Now, the cost of turnover of a frontline retail associate in 2006 was set at $3,500 cost of turnover. If you can keep someone in at the first management position in a bank, is set at about $55,000, the cost of turnover of that person. Mm-hmm. So making sure that someone has a friend at work, making sure that someone feels like a respected member of the community, it's worth money. Customer satisfaction surveys are all about the product knowledge and the happiness of the employee. You know this. What do we want but to keep our customers happy? And how do we do that? We respect our team. It's so straightforward. Yeah.
It certainly is. Sometimes we can't see what's right in front of us.
I didn't think that in a conversation with you, I'd be the one going, bottom line, Mark, bottom line. The other thing that we should talk about in the future of work is just that it was, this stuff about competency-based hiring, it was really hard to do 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. The thing is that the U.S. Chamber Foundation has created the Talent Pipeline Management Initiative, which is stunningly awesome. And Markle Foundation, the folks that brought us Sesame Street, are working on an extraordinary initiative on competency-based hiring. And last time I looked, they were in like 26 different states. And you can find everything you need to know. Just like when Hernando DeSoto started going in and giving deed and title properties and creating those systems for exchange, there's the ability now for employers to really play the role to demonstrate the competency-based hiring is the way it goes in their organization.
What's great also is as we get to complete, because you and I can go on for hours, all wonderful. But I was talking to some people who are helping high school students who are slated to potentially go homeless based on how they identify them, and taking them and helping them, like you say, wasted minds, basically, or the expression that I guess the NAACP used to have, and they've got so much potential, and they would have gone wasted. And high schoolers that are demeaned because they didn't go to this college or that college, rather than being valuable people. And I think you hit it right on the mark, doing full circle at the beginning of this conversation, about everybody's important. We're all important to the community. So with that said, you talk to high schoolers coming out, hoping to graduate, graduates coming out of school. Pretend that I'm a graduate, whichever one, let's say high school, and I come to you and I said, I couldn't have my prom. I wanted to bring my girlfriend to the prom. There's no graduation. What do I do next? What now with everything going on? What would you tell me?
Oh, I tell you that you have remarkable gifts. You have remarkable gifts. And the world has a lot of problems to solve. And I would ask you, what's a problem that kind of would excite you? What's the thing that you would like to make better, that you would like to make different about the world that you live in? Would you like to listen to people and help them find their way? Would you like to build a bridge? Do you want to make the coolest new app? And think about what are the problems that it excites you to solve, because that's going to intrinsically kind of unlock what your values are. What are the things that you value and what make you feel proud of yourself, right? And when we keep unlocking that, we're going to find that that's the things you want to spend time on. That's the things you'll get up in the morning to do. And so I would listen to you, tell me what problems you wanted to solve. And pretty quickly, we'll find that there's a place for you. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I know we can go on. We might have to do the sequel to the sequel to the sequel.
Kind Mark, you're so kind.
Thank you so much. You're a star.
Mark, it's just an embarrassing honor of you to say that to me, and thank you so much for talking to me today. And every day we talk is just joyful. Thank you.
Ditto.